everybody. Welcome to Old Fashioned Catholics. I'm Nick.
And I'm Kevin.
And we are Catholics who drink old fashioned. And we, as usual, we only film late at night because that's when most people in their vocation are allowed to have free time. So we have found that our show is best enjoyed while you're sipping a drink. So if you want to hit pause right now, we're going to have what I'm drinking, what Kevin's drinking, and what our guests will be drinking up on the screen, even though you don't know it yet. And so we'll hit pause right now. And welcome back. Okay, so normally we have an intro of some kind, but that would be foolish tonight. It just felt weird even when I was working on one. So there's no bio. This person has zero bio whatsoever. They have no background, no back history. Welcome to the show, Father Mike Schmitz.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Kevin.
You're very welcome. What are you drinking?
Okay, yes. Well, this is a juicy IPA.
Oh,
so it's not an old fashioned because I don't know how to drink liquor. But I went to the beer cave here in Duluth and looking for my old standby is called Axeman. It's by Surly, which is a local Minnesota brewery. Actually I would get Roundhouse because that's my brother-in-law's brewery in Brainerd, but they don't have any here in Duluth. But Todd the Axeman, Todd was one of the founders of Surly, and he went to start his own brewery. And so they took off the Todd and kept the Axeman. It's an IPA. They didn't have it because it's too good. And so the guy said, try this. So I'm trying it. It's called like Gigantor or something like that. It's called Intergalactic Warrior India Pale Ale.
Is it really?
Yes. So, and I thought that I would channel my inner how would you say food person. And
Chef?
I'm now prepping some meal because, as you noted, Nick, it is late at night and I am just finally getting a chance to stop and eat something and drink something and talk to my friends.
So that is
here we are.
The only other scripted question we ever ask somebody is because we're trying to just be more like not an interview and not what a public persona would be, but just in actuality. The other question we ask is, so actually, truly, how was your day? What did you do today?
Oh my gosh, dude. I'm gonna rinse my hands off because that's good for sanitary reasons.
COVID.
I don't know. COVID and stuff.
You don't want to give it to yourself.
That's you can't give it to yourself. Okay, that's actually an issue. Yesterday, I was at a coffee shop, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, my nose started running, and my eyes started feeling just all like glassy, and I was like, no, what the heck? And so, also, I hadn't taken any allergy medication for a while, and so like, this is probably what it is. I took some Zyrtec twice now, yesterday and today, and I feel like 1,000 times better. But I still didn't go into the gym today because I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy who is like, I'm fine, and then get everybody sick. So thankfully, I don't think I'm that guy.
Super spreader Schmitz.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Is like, I'm okay with being a spreader. I don't want to be a super spreader because I was talking someone told me this, that it might have been one of my brothers, but they said when it comes to like flattening the curve, like you're gonna spread it to other people. You just don't want to spread it to multiples, like in the sense of like you spread it to one to one, not one to 3 to 9 to whatever numbers after that, 81.
Math.
So, math.
Oh, I see what you did
today.
There. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Then today I spent. Oh gosh. Okay. So, brother. Well, I don't even know. Where do I start? Early.
Why haven't you eaten today?
Oh, yes, because I had a gajillion meetings, and then we had this retreat last weekend, which is not one of the reasons why I might have a runny nose and a slight cough. It's because of yep. We kept our distance, mask on the whole time, but the retreat was for a Holy Spirit retreat. And so at the end of it, it was just awesome. And I kind of let it out. I was like, oh, are we having a Holy Spirit night this Friday? Like, where we come back together in front of the Lord in the Eucharist and like just praise. And they're like, no, we don't have it on the schedule. But then over the course of the week, they were like, we should do that. That's a great idea. And so I'm like, okay, well then let's just keep on rolling through the day. And so I got done with all the meetings, raced over to the cathedral, prayed, confessions, raced back here, food, drink, friends, internet.
There you go. What are you making? I can't see because I can't look over the edge of the camera.
Oh, okay.
It smells good.
Okay. So here's, I don't know. Okay, so gosh, how do I say this without sounding so incredibly awful?
No, just say it. You are incredibly awful.
Just do you, man.
Were you doing like Saving Private Ryan? Like, shh.
Were you slowly stabbing the guy to death? No.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, okay.
I have to time this though, because 8:51. 10 minutes on the side with my phone. Okay, so a couple of years ago, I started cooking on my own. And
he uses that term loosely, but
no, I a couple of years ago, like years before that, I would cook like I'd grill. That's it. That's the only thing I could do, and I can make sandwiches. I could put soup in the microwave, and then someone shared, "Here's a week of HelloFresh," and I was like, "Okay, fine." So it's one of those where they send you all the ingredients, and then they send you a paint by number, basically recipe card, like something like this, and then you just follow steps by step.
Sure.
And so it's basically taught me how to cook, which is awesome. But the thing is, one of the meals they have, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I grew up eating this food, but it never tasted this good. And I hesitate to say what it is, because it is a waterfowl. And so it's not chicken, it's duck. And duck is amazing.
It is. It's so stinking good.
I grew up eating it, and it was like, oh wow, this is the duck my dad shot, and it's all dry and so hard to like, and I made it how they told me to make it, and it's like, oh my goodness, this is insane. It's so good. And so what you do is you put it on the pan, and you put it skin side down for like 13 minutes, and you let it just like render in its own fat. And then flip it over for like 3, and it's perfection. It's insane. And this is coarse kosher salt.
So I'm assuming you're using a little bit lower of a heat setting then to let the fat render. Is that true?
That's correct, Kevin.
Nice. That's
oh
my
good
gosh.
follow up there.
So usually, yeah, exactly.
I would have been like, somehow, is that a pan you're using?
The duck, it's smiling at me.
Christmas story. Nice.
Well, that's amazing. I don't think I've ever had duck, and I'm native to Minnesota. You feel like most people have, so it sounds like you have as well, Nick. You've had it before.
Well, but we had it in China all the time when we lived there, because they had Beijing duck and stuff. And they would hang it and roast it in these things. It's just stinking amazing.
Like in the movie.
Yeah,
like in the movie that Kevin referenced.
Which, on a total side note, we lived in China for 2 years, and while we were there at Christmas, all the foreigners, you get together because you kind of rally, you need people. And we were over watching Christmas Story at one of the fellow teachers' houses, and we got to that scene, the fa ra 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 ra, and there's this knock on the door, and a bunch of our Chinese friends had come over, and we're like, oh, pause it right now. Oh man, we were so embarrassed because they're like, what are you watching? We're like, nothing. It was almost like we were hiding something wildly inappropriate, because we just shut it off. We're like, nothing. It was no big deal. It was something really illegal. But yeah, same thing.
It's the end of the movie.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was over. It just ended. Credits.
It is close. I mean, it is the end of the movie. I'm gonna move this so I can get some. I don't want to have the crackling of the crackling bacon of the chicken duck in the background. Is it okay? Did I move this? I mean,
yeah. Is it cooking right now?
Is it cooking?
Yeah. Are you cooking it right now? Oh yeah. No, we can't hear it.
I can't hear anything.
Okay, because it's loudly crackling and awesome.
Your earbuds are doing the thing. They're
keeping up noise canceling.
What time did you get up?
So okay, normally I get up at 4. But today, because of potential COVID, I got up a little bit later than that.
You slacked off till what, 4:15?
Yeah, I feel like a slacker. So the
we're safe.
I have this. Someone gave me this Yeti.
Oh, awesome. Nice.
On this side, engraved in metallic letters, it says Father Mike. And on this side, engraved in metallic letters, it says Father Mike. And I was really, really grateful for the gift that was engraved. I don't need to be reminded of my name. So I put stickers over it because
You live alone, so nobody's using your mug.
exactly. And I'm really grateful.
Who,
like it
who
came out of
used
nowhere.
my mug?
It came out of nowhere. Like I was just like, wow, this is so nice of this person who just gave me this Yeti because they're great things, Like no one's gonna see it. I just don't need to see it myself. So
Yeah.
I just want to tell a story about the Yeti.
Also, I think that didn't say Yeti. All I could see, or I didn't say Father Mike. It just said Yeti. So I think you might be living in a bit of a dream world there.
Underneath, if you could feel it in Braille.
I can't.
I can.
Bought yourself that mug, didn't you?
I did. just like I got myself this mug too.
This says it all.
Let me show you all the stuff I got myself.
Spencer gifts.
That's awesome. So how long does the duck go till it's ready?
So on one side, I don't need to turn my head, do I? I think I pretty much says it all.
Oh my gosh. How did you do that?
Is that a what?
Oh my gosh. The timing.
How? Where is that? Where's that setting?
Well,
Nick's setting, I want it.
While Nick is trying to find that, I have a philosophical question for you. Your thoughts, honestly, on the character Robert California.
Funny, because I just watched his final episode yesterday, 2 days ago.
I watched it last night. That's why I'm bringing it up. I'm not even kidding you.
I did last night as well.
Holy cow.
And he goes up to Andy and he gives him a kiss.
I forgot about that completely because it's been so long.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So Robert California. So the movie, the TV show Blacklist is James Spader's new TV show. And the theory is that's Robert California.
No way.
It's his new identity.
Is there any other, besides it being a theory, is there anything else?
Other than the fact that he says, Bob Kazamakis, nice to meet you. And he reinvents himself clearly.
Sure.
And
total side note on James Spader. So when we lived in Queens, we went to with our friend Whitney, we went to the Tonight Show, and we waited 5:30 in the morning in the winter, so cold. We waited. We were 7, 8, and 9. Me, Jason, and Whitney, and we got in. And we were the last people to make it into the studio to be there for the filming. And they announced, okay, the guest today is James Spader. And we were like, oh, that's okay. I saw Pretty in Pink. So that's kind of cool. And because that's the only thing I've ever seen him in. And so he came on, and in between everything, there's a comedian. There's some guy who just keeps you going or whatever. And it was the worst interview I've seen in my entire life. The stands were quiet. Jimmy Fallon, he was working really hard to even it was horrible. It was painful. And he would just tell stories, and they would go on for, 8, 9 minutes. James Spader would. And they had no point. They had no anything. And he'd get done and just be like, so yeah. And so when he walked out off through the curtain, the comedian came on and he's like, that was rough, right? And everybody was like, oh, thank God you mentioned it, because it was the worst interview. It was terrible. And so we felt kind of, you're like, I waited in the morning and everything.
Right. Yeah.
But then they're like, so it was Friday, and we had a guest who was supposed to be on Monday and he can't. So we're going to do an extra taping right now, and you guys are going to be the audience. And we're like, okay. And it was Ryan Reynolds, and that was really fun. So everybody was like, bah! It was way better.
Yeah.
So anyway. Yeah.
Wow. Imagine being James Spader.
Yeah, I know.
After that, and being like, because I imagine, was he trying, or was he actively trying not to be entertaining?
It could have totally been a shtick.
Yeah,
I don't know. It seemed like, okay, so, and this is, as if anyone's ever watching, but Jennifer Garner, I had seen her in Alias. We watched all those. We loved them or whatever. And she's really awesome. And then you'd see her in interviews and just sort of flaky, not as a human, but as an interview, it's like, wow. How do you act so well? Because, and so sitting there with James Spader, we're just like, I just don't think I don't think he's a really entertaining person. He's not even trying. Not that he was trying to be unentertaining, because he was trying to tell a story, but he's a bad storyteller. He wasn't engaging at all. And so after you're on Jimmy Fallon and you expect it, and you're just like, oh, that was I mean, he didn't seem mean or anything. He just seemed like
It's just kind of bland, huh?
off camera. You're kind of a boring person.
So not like a Joaquin Phoenix doing an interview where you're like,
right.
this
I
guy's
remember
deep.
that's what I was thinking of.
Because that still would have been like something, right?
Oh yeah, right. And that was engaging. I imagine the audience is like, "What is happening?" They're laughing during that interview, and David Letterman's like, "Why would I wish that Joaquin Phoenix would have shown up tonight?"
Yeah, and everybody's like, you said it. No, it wasn't like that. It was just like if you asked a librarian to come on and tell some awesome stories, and
about the library,
they couldn't do
She's
it.
at the library.
Tell me about the Dewey Decimals. She's at the library.
Flip the bird, Father. Flip the bird.
Hopefully, I step into the frame, and you see that I changed my pants.
You did. We saw it already. You have shorts.
You already saw it?
Hey, Kevin, did you tell him to flip the bird?
Yeah, I did.
Is he going to do it?
Listen.
Sorry, I should have noticed it.
Your ceiling's looking a little smoky up there.
Oh, for sure it is. For sure.
Whew.
Yeah, sorry about that. Except for that smell. I don't know if you can tell. But good news
is just, oh man, I can smell that fat just pouring off.
Are you going to just eat the straight duck?
Well, so normally what I do is I would make duck à l'orange.
I have no idea what that is.
And you cross the line.
So you take an orange, take some
zest,
and some vinegar, red wine vinegar, and some chicken stock concentrate. And you kind of put a little bit of that, and then some water, dash of water in there, and then it I don't know what the word is, but coagulates essentially.
It's here.
And what is that?
It's the best zester I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
It's so fun. You can zest so much stuff. Go ahead, keep going.
No, I use I use a grater. I'm not even that good.
Well, Jason got tired of parts of my knuckles being in when I was zesting, so she got me that.
Yeah, that's pretty smoky back there, isn't it? Just turn it away. You don't have to look.
Pay no attention to the man behind.
Pay no attention to the smoke. You can see it right there coming out.
Yeah, you can't get away from it, man. Do you have a smoke alarm? You should probably invest in a smoke alarm.
No.
I love that we get to sit here and watch him just eat a duck.
Well, we don't know if we're going to eat it on camera. I don't know.
That's fair enough.
What?
Fair enough.
You have to eat it on camera.
I don't know. We'll see.
You're good.
Speaking of, what's up with you guys?
Yeah, Nick, how was your day?
I like to read books. I haven't read a book like with words on a page in over a year. Once a year I get to read a book because my wife has a medical conference and we go, and she's gone in the morning. So I sit and read a book, but they got canceled because of the zombie apocalypse. And so I have not read a book. So she was supposed to go to an FAA certification thing to be like an FAA medical examiner in Oklahoma, and that was canceled because of the zombie apocalypse. So she already had some plane tickets. She flew to Georgia, and she went with the two youngest children. And so I don't have a 1-year-old or a 3-year-old in the house. And my other 3 kids are just in the garage watching a movie under blankets because it's very cold. And so
at this moment,
yeah, right.
Wait, why are they in the garage?
Well, it's technically we call it the rec room. It's carpeted. It's not insulated, but it's carpeted. So as long as they have blankets, they're like, okay. And it sounds so dumb, but like I rarely get any downtime. I mean, like even filming, we film so late at night. So my wife was going to only take the baby, and that would have been fine. I would have played with Hudson and stuff. And she's like, so I would like to, I know it's an extra plane ticket, but I'd like to take the baby so that you can actually read a book.
Yeah.
So everybody just left.
All right.
I still hear you.
The alarm went off. I can hear you too.
Hey.
Everybody was gone.
Yeah, it was great. Both at once. You guys just left. You're like, you asked me to tell a story.
Hey, great story, Nick.
Whatever. So yesterday I spent 3.5 hours in a bathtub, and I just
straight.
That's a yes. Well, no.
But total.
I mean it, man. Well, I spent 1.5 hours, and then whatever the math is, 2.5 hours, whatever it is, separate times.
2. We know it's 2. Everybody.
we have it would be two, wouldn't it? So I went to school for acting. That's all. So we have a jacuzzi tub thing, and we're lucky enough to have one in the house that we are in, and it heats the water as the jets are on, so it never gets cold.
Oh, so you don't get cold.
Yeah. So I sat and I read. Have you ever heard of Vince Flynn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, he's from Minneapolis, St. Paul, I guess, but he died of
Yeah,
cancer. But anyway, they kept. Yeah. So his character kept going with Kyle Mills, and the newest book came out like a month ago, and I bought it on my Nook, and I laid in the tub and I read it, and I just didn't do anything. I napped when I wanted to, and no kids were home because the other kids are at school. So today I did the same thing all morning, and then in the afternoon I fixed a couple of garage door openers and prepared for. I recorded 6 talks as well throughout the day.
Wow, for what?
Different things. Another podcast episode or 2 podcast episodes
Yeah.
and some things for some people in Evansville, which is something I really love to do. But if I have a baby around the house, I can't do that. And so I kind of that was, as soon as Jacelyn said she was leaving, she was like, okay. And she saw it in my face. She said, okay, so I'm going to be gone 8 days and I'm going to take the baby. And she saw the wheels turning and she's like,
Yep, like all the stuff you can do.
Yep. She's like, I'm taking Hudson and you're not allowed, you have to read a book. You have to lay down and read a book. You have to. And so I didn't get to finish it. I'll finish it tonight when we're done, but I was a good boy. I did what I was told. So I cleaned a bunch and I did things, projects and stuff, and fed the goats and the kids, but it's kind of the same thing. But then that's what I did. It was a good day. How about you, Kevin? What did you do?
Well, actually, I had a quick question for you because, you would never say this out loud, but I'll say it for you. You're one of those people that just can like go and go and go and go and just sacrifice everything for your family all the time.
True.
Do you find it difficult to not do anything or difficult to just unwind?
Yeah,
on a personal level?
Before, so back in the like when we first all met each other, there were no kids in the picture. I would once a month take a day to myself and I'd stay at home and just read or something. But for the most part, their balance was easy. I think it was like 98% was Jacelyn's time, and then I had 2% of my own, and that was fine. It took 2% of time, and I joked with her, and she's like, "Yeah, that sounds about right." And I could read a book in the 2% of time. But with kids, you change. So I don't know how much of your brain chemistry changes, but you change, and so. The first few days I was here, I worked 8 hours in this. Our detached garage had all of our personal belongings from storage and stuff, and you couldn't park in the garage because it was chaos. So I spent like 8.5 hours one day and 7.5 hours another day. And Wednesday I spent half the day there, and I finally got that done. And I worked really hard. I ignored my kids. Like I would run inside and make a microwave pizza and then just be like, just eat it. If something's wrong, come get me, but I have to go. And I go back out and I would just work so that I could have Thursday and Friday. But both yesterday and today, sitting in the tub easily 30 times, I had to be like, you don't have to get up and do something. It's fine. Like yes, there is a pot on the stove right now, and there's a pile of dirty laundry. You don't actually have to because no one's around to make you do it. It's okay. And so it was harder than I thought it'd be because it was never hard in the past. It was very easy for me in the past to just lay around. But yeah, I've slacked off as a dad lately. So I was like trying to also be a better dad this week when we had all this free time, which I think I probably failed, but they don't know. They won't know till therapy. So it's not and then I'll be gone.
Oh man,
kids were just watching
like,
Willy Wonka. If this is
like
Willy Wonka, you can put that through.
Man, that's incredible.
It does look like it. Sorry about that. Juices.
Okay, so wait.
Don't be sorry. It's got its own juice.
Is that
its own sauce?
Happy Fresh or whatever, or did you just buy duck?
So then, sorry, I should have finished. Nick, I don't mean to interrupt your story about your kids.
It's done.
And your dadness. So I liked it so much, and I was like, wow, I love duck. And so then I went to the grocery stores. I went online. There's no grocery stores in Duluth that sell duck ever. Like there may be some special someday. Yep. And so the last time I had it, I went online and said, there's got to be someone who delivers duck. And there's this place called D'Artagnan, like one of the Three Musketeers, out of Chicago. And I ordered it on Saturday, and it came on Tuesday or something like this. And here we are today. And I took the first bite. I did pray. I just didn't pray on camera, funny, you
Yeah,
know.
you're not supposed to pray on camera. It's like a thing.
It's yeah.
It doesn't count.
Hello.
It's like
Well,
confession.
So good. Look at this. Look at that. Oh my gosh.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Ah.
It's like perfectly medium rare in the middle.
Do you
It's
know
like
what,
13 and 3, boom.
Kevin? What did you eat for dinner?
What do we have?
Did you-
We had street tacos.
Oh, that's a little better. That's cool.
Yeah.
I had
What did you have?
microwavable,
Did you make them?
microwavable pot stickers.
I did. Oh, pot stickers. I could eat like 100 of
Microwavable
those.
pot stickers, though,
That's a little weird.
in an air fryer.
But
Wait.
no, I didn't make it because I was downstairs the entire day. Today I had a day off. So from
nice.
this morning until dinner and after dinner, I've been working on putting in a new ceiling in our basement.
Why
And,
aren't you in the basement so we could see the last interview?
Hey, the last video, yeah, there's a little progress that's been done actually.
Oh, good job.
But no, I just wanted to be in the kitchen. But anyways, my wife made it all, and it was amazing. They just scarfed it down. So good.
Okay, so we tried a random street tacos recipe the other night. What did she do? What was in it?
Small, so just these really small corn tortillas, lightly pan fried or whatever, so that they're warm and a little bit crisp, but you can still mold them. And then there was, you had beef and cheese and avocado and salsa, lettuce, homemade refried beans. That's the kicker. That's like the thing that really sets it apart. And then sour cream.
Nice.
So I think I could eat street tacos or tacos of some sort every day. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, we've gotten into almost that groove. I think like 3 nights a week we probably do something.
I feel the same way about filet mignon and lobster.
Oh,
Sure. Yeah.
I think I could eat it every night.
not all of us are priests, Father, so you can't all. Well, actually, it's true. Like you're making it for one. It's way different than.
Yeah, good. I was just kidding about that.
No, I've had filet mignon twice. I've had lobster all the time. That's my favorite food. Followed closely by steak, but if I could have lobster every day, I would. I would eat.
So you would eat lobster every day if you could.
Every day,
Yeah.
breakfast,
For me-
lunch, and well, I'd have Guinness for breakfast, and then the other two would be lobster.
Father Mike, every day, same food. What would it be?
I have to go to the pizza because it's Friday.
Mm,
Because you can even order pizza with steak on it.
yeah. Can't argue with
You do
that.
Well, if you had to say no one food, then I'd say steak.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Excellent choice.
I make steak a little bit during the year, but I actually reserve most steak for the once a year that we get to eat it in February. Because that's about because he'll grill. Well, okay. Actually, I didn't plan on doing the food thing, but I wanted. So, what is it you did to the steak this last time? Kevin was there. What did you do the last time?
Yeah, okay. So
because it was unique. You were like throwing butter on it once it was done. And
he was like rolling it in a bed of like fresh rosemary and
at one
dandelion.
point he was on the floor and it was on his pecs. I can't remember
He was
exactly.
massaging it.
that's the you have to knead the meat. You have to knead it. That's right. Gosh. So this upcoming January 30th is when we're doing it again.
Okay. So that's when I get steak again.
Body. Yep. Well, January 29th.
In person?
But yeah, in person. Wait, yeah. Well, yeah, I think wait. So what I did was I took the big, what were those top sirloins, I think? Yeah, they're top sirloins. They're the big steaks. Put them on the pan, seared them on both sides. Meanwhile, while they're searing and cooking a little bit, on a cutting board, a couple of pats of butter with some seasoning, so it's like seasonal and some steak rub and some other kind of things. And then what you do is you take the steak off and let it set on the butter / seasoning mixture and let it set like that for a bit. And then you slice the steak and then kind of mix it all around. So the idea behind that is you don't season it beforehand because after it's warmed up, then it absorbs the seasonings even more. And just, there was a mess of meat on each one of our plates. There was like
amazing.
A pile of meat.
I think this year we should probably get a picture because it's an epic amount of meat.
So good. and about the best Brussels sprouts you can imagine. I mean,
they're pretty good, weren't they?
They're a little bit charred and man, so good.
I think it was the prior year or one of the prior years that we just it kind of ate burnt meat. Like it was
Yeah,
steak.
it's on one side. So
yeah,
mad.
it was a big steak, but it was just like, but it still tasted really good. So it didn't matter. Like it was still good, but it was a different recipe. I think you were going with that year. So that's cool.
It was on the grill and somehow got overly hot.
Yeah.
And I let that one side burn, and I was like, let's throw them away. I don't even care. Like, no, you're right. You're right.
But it was still really good. Like that's the thing. I still ate it. You apologize a lot. Oh, I was going to ask. So with COVID, I think Kevin and I have talked about how like COVID had affected us, but when it came to not ministry, not public stuff, like obviously all speaking things got canceled for a while and stuff,
Yeah.
but just on a personal level, how did COVID end up being for you? How was that?
I guess that's a good question. I guess that's a good question.
I've heard better. But,
is that it?
I mean,
is that all you have? Let me tell you a long story for 10
there's
minutes and
a
then say
follow
what
up. I got to
happened.
follow up. Okay.
I was hoping for more breakthroughs personally during the time of quarantine, during the time of COVID, all that kind of stuff. Like I was really shooting for like, hey, I remember from the very first day, I was telling myself, don't waste this time. Don't waste this time. Like do not leave quarantine the same person you were when you came in, like a retreat, like anything. And I saw it as an opportunity more than anything else. And now keeping in mind that ministerially, that I don't think we wasted it. I think we maximized it as much as we possibly could. And that's really great. But I think there were some elements that just, there was so much work to do during this whole time that, and so much unknown that we don't know, we'll plan for this. Okay, it got canceled. We'll plan for this, it got canceled. And there's this kind of like stopping and starting that was pretty kind of personally exhausting a little bit like that. There also was the fact that here at the Newman House, so we had, let's back up. When everything happened, I just landed in Israel.
Right, I was going to have you tell them about that, yeah.
With a bunch of our college students, maybe 25 to 30 of them.
And you were coming from?
Minnesota.
When the pilgrimage, where was that?
Oh, to Israel, right. So
Israel.
We went Minnesota to Israel, landed in the Holy Land, and Sunday morning. And by Sunday afternoon, the Prime Minister of Israel had said, all travel is going to be suspended as of Thursday of this week. We're like, oh my gosh, we have to get, it scrambled to find flights for everyone out of the country because we didn't know if we'd be able to fly out on our normal flights.
Because you texted at one point saying that, they're going to come get us in the night and we got to go. Like,
yeah, that's what literally happened. I was in my room after 2.5 days there, and it was midnight, and I got a knock on the door, and our team director, our focus team director, her name is Lauren knocked on the door, and she's like, you have to be downstairs in the lobby in 10 minutes. A shuttle taking the airport with 9 other students. And you're like, I'm like, oh, okay, great. And that was it. And we flew from Tel Aviv to Istanbul to Los Angeles, stayed in Los Angeles for 3 days, waiting for everyone else to get there. When they got there, we kind of all reconvened, and then flew from Los Angeles to Chicago, from Chicago to Minneapolis, and then drove up. And it was just, but so the good thing about this was we had 25 to 30 students who we were all in the same 5 international airports in 6 days. And so we're like, well, if anyone has it, we do. So we need to like lock down and quarantine ourselves, because we already knew, even then it was like pretty clear, okay, if you might have it, you need to quarantine yourself. And so we had this group of people right from the very beginning who quarantined themselves. And when we got done with our quarantine, because no one got it, that was the exact same weekend or same day that the governor went into the stay-at-home order. So we got done with our quarantine. It was like, oh, everyone's now in quarantine.
Wow.
Which wasn't too bad because we had already been used to it.
Yeah.
So for the next, like all these weeks and months, one of the coolest things for us was that we had kind of business as usual when it came to, like, I don't think I missed a meeting. I think every meeting just changed to Zoom.
Sure.
But there was just so much time for people. And I don't mean like time like we just laying around. It was more like, okay, relationships, we can just get really deep in these things. Sure. And so as one example, we started streaming our masses online on Sunday mornings. And then afterwards, I would have marriage preps, I would have this, and we'd have another mass at night. This super packed Sundays. Well, we had the two missionaries who would help us out for Sunday morning mass with Heather, who's the coordinator of Newman. She filmed the whole thing while everyone else was attending mass in the houses next door because we're all quarantined together. And so we'd all, and then when mass got done, we'd make sure everything got uploaded to the internet, and they'd be making brunch. And so we would just walk over to their house and have brunch. And there's like leisurely Sunday that I've never had, almost never had as a priest, like ever.
Right. And
it was just the coolest thing because even some of our upperclassmen students who had kind of lamented over the course of the years, like everyone's so busy, no one has like a time for each other. Even the missionaries are always running and they're always serving, they're always working. That all of a sudden for that last semester of their senior year, we just had time for each other. And that was really cool. That was such a gift.
Especially for the seniors. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Because on one hand, it's their senior year that's taken away from them. On the other hand, it's the most unique senior year with the most uninterrupted time with each other, with me, with our focus missionaries. And then on top of that, my brother Mark and my brother-in-law Mark and I started doing this like Saturday morning Zoom workout with each other. And so it was just the coolest thing. Actually, my brother texted me tonight and said, "Hey, do you want to do it again tomorrow?" Like, yes, we'll do this. And it was just cool for the three of us to hang out. We'd work out and then we'd just hang out afterwards and chat and talk about stuff. And on Sunday evenings, we get the whole family. So we'd have all the Zoom people. And for a few weeks or maybe months even, that was really, really good just to see everyone and just, again, like have it be like, this is a Sabbath that where we can be at home with each other, even if we can't be with each other. And that was cool.
Maddie was in New York City when that was all happening. So if I know there was a gap in time that was pretty tense for all of you guys.
And that was key. So those first Sundays, even, well, actually all the Sundays, I think more or less, they all went to the mass that we had online. And so that was so cool. Like after mass, to have all my siblings were all text. We're all on the same text thread, and just to hear their comments and praying for this and this and that, and then we get together at the evening over the internet, and it was really good. And also for Matt, because Matt, he was just, he's an ER doc, and so he's used to being on the front lines, he's used to doing triage. But this was unique. Obviously in New York City, it's where he is, in Brooklyn. It was like all of a sudden like wartime triage, and so it rattled him, I think, for a while. And one of the good things was, we just got to be there for him and be with him in some ways, which is so good.
Oh my gosh, so many thoughts. There's so many things there. Think of, everything you just said. Would that ever have happened? Like, would that ever have happened otherwise? I had things like that happen with my close friends and family, things that, catching up with people that you just haven't, or the people that if you were to sit and write it down, they're the most important people to you, and you're not communicating with them regularly. And suddenly we're all feeling this draw to check in with each other.
Yeah, that's exactly the most important people. And it's like, oh, next time, I'll see them in the summer, see them at Christmas or whatever the thing is, as opposed to let's just talk. And it's really, really good. Yeah, it was. So yeah.
So your Saturday, well, obviously your Saturday night or Saturday morning things have kept on. You've kept on with that.
Well,
with Mark and Mark.
So it went from Mark and Mark and me,
which in Spanish would be Mark y Mark. Anyway, keep going.
So then my sister Amy, who's super competitive, was like, "Well, let me join you." I'm like, of course, and she did, which is great. And then
no, it wasn't.
And it was. And then their kids, and then Mark's kids, and then some of Amy and Mark's friends came over, or they did their own Zoom, and it was great. It was still really a gift. But then we lost a little bit of that, like just the kind of the couple brothers, brother-in-law who's like a brother, and then we stopped. Gosh, it was a weekend that I had something. I had a couple different events. Maybe it was actually when my brother Mark came up to the state, or up to Minnesota, and that was August. And so we haven't done it since then. And so
the family thing.
Random text today saying, "Hey, want to do it tomorrow?"
What about this Sunday afternoon?
Yeah, that lasted. It's really good that you asked that. It was so good. And then what happened was everyone was kind of like, okay, so we're gonna set up our camera like at the kitchen table. So we're all gonna eat supper, And that just meant like a bunch of families talking with each other, and we're all watching
Right.
each other kind of talk with each other. And so it just kind of devolved, which was fine. I mean, it was kind of clear that it spent itself after maybe 2 months.
It reminds me of in Superman Returns, where he was exposed, to all the kryptonite or whatever, and it's all this gray, and he bursts through the clouds, and for like a few seconds, he's up there.
Yeah.
And like just soaking in the sun. That's actually during COVID. I was like, yeah, every kid is home. Jacelyn's hours got cut like crazy. So she was only working 2 days a week, as opposed to 5. And you could see that with everybody online, that there was this time of like, nope, it's just in the sunlight with our families. And there was financial stress, and there was stress of you love your kids, but you don't want them around. And so all of that was real, but at the same time, it was this moment where I think people were up in the sun and saw maybe a glimpse of what like maybe the past looked like when you were just always around each other and you made efforts to like spend time with each other. But then, yeah, I think after a couple of months, you could see that across the board where, because in the analogy, that I'm using from the movie, he just flies back into the fray. He just goes back to the fight. And I think that's kind of generally what everybody had to do. People had to go back to work. They had to go back to, school or summer camp or whatever it was. Like everything started to sift out again. But there was this time where it was like, wow, that was really amazing. I like all you people, and maybe we should do that more often type thing.
Yeah, I don't know who
Kevin,
said this. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, did you have that, Kev?
Well, yeah, it was. I've pondered on this a lot because, for our family, our kids were so happy. I have zero complaints about the last 6 months. It was so amazing to have so much time at home with each other. And it made me think about like every family that has ever existed, except for maybe the last 50 years, spent 90% of their time with each other, just talking and interacting and doing stuff with each other. And it almost felt like a tiny little slice of a different era because it was so quiet. There was nothing going on, and we all just did stuff with each other. And it was just amazing to be able to have that kind of time with my wife and kids.
And it's funny because it's like, so Father Mike, you had your group that you had all traveled through all of the fray together. So you were forced into even physical, like you could be with these people, these few people, and you formed family with them. And I like a, home family unit's the same way. Like I could be around my wife and kids because we knew that we had been around each other. So it forced like this nuclear, like it fostered the nuclear family a little bit on all fronts, not just, mother, father, and kids. Like we would go on walks. We would go on walks every day for over an hour just because we happen to live where there's woods.
Did you see families outside, like everywhere?
We never saw another soul, but that was because we live in the wilderness.
Oh, you live nowhere. Yeah. But yeah, Father Mike, like there were families in our neighborhood all over the place with each other.
I would look out these windows because right there is campus. Like out these windows, as you both know, is the campus. And I would almost bet $1 million that 8 times, if not 9 times out of 10, when I randomly looked out the window, there was someone or someone's walking by.
Really?
One person out for a run, out for a bike, couples, people with dogs, people with families, entire families, all of the time. It was awesome. It was so cool.
So speculative, like, so what is that?
Ooh.
If that was so stinking amazing, what was lost when it went back? Like how can we, like, I don't know. We have kept on family walks as often as we possibly can because we realized, wow, that was really fun. Like even our kids at some point at one another have said, can we just go on a walk? Can we just go out in the woods? So there's got to be some aspect where, like, yeah, it was the same idea on Facebook. Facebook was filled with just pictures of, like dads who were always at work were now suddenly being like, I painted this thing with the kids and it sucks, but it was fun. Like it was filled with things like that. And I wonder, like, obviously not to be cynical, but it's just going to go away and everybody's going to
Right.
let it go and they're going to go back to, but it'd be so interesting if there was a way to encourage people to stick with that, you know, to like, remember how good that, I was so happy when every sport was canceled and every camp was canceled and every dance class was canceled and everything that all of our, I mean, they're all good things, but I was so glad when we just got to sit by the fireplace and just read a story, like to read from Narnia and whatnot. Like it was just really good. And to see that kind of go away, like even with you, Father Mike, like you met with your family, which is such a rare thing, like everybody out in New York or wherever. And to see that like, well, it was a good couple of months and then to like move from it. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. And at the same time, you know, I'm really glad, like you said, there's something so positive. There's the positive and there's the light side and the dark side of the whole thing. I mean, for example, we had some of our seniors who got to have the most unique experience of their entire college career their senior year, and there's a bunch of other students who got to go home. Like that was it. They just went home, and they got to have the not positive, most unique experience. I'm thinking about my nephew Max. You guys know Max. He's a senior this year in Brainerd, and I mean, basketball is life. He loves playing. I mean, he has a good head on his shoulders. He knows he's not like, he knows that God is more important. Anyways, but they just finished their soccer season just not too long ago, a couple days ago.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, man, what if they canceled basketball for this young man who has spent so much of his life like getting to this point where he's okay, I'm going to lead this team. I mean, he's looked up to the captains. And now he is in this place where he's like honed his skills and maybe will or might or might not play in college. And you're like, okay, this is kind of like when it comes to that, the end of the road, maybe. And you don't get to finish it. Like there's something about that that's kind of like, you have to. I mean, at the same time, let's put it in perspective. In the 1940s, if he was his age, he'd graduate and then go off to war. So like, you know, right. It's listen, but at the same time, it's still real, sacrifice.
It's still valid,
still real. Yeah. So it's and also people like losing their work, you know, losing their livelihood and
and all the death, you know.
Oh my gosh, yeah. All, you know, nationally, you mean? Yeah.
Not Minnesota wise, but yeah, nationally. So and that's the interesting thing of it, like just maybe some good that can come from horrific things. We would never want a pandemic. We would never want any death. But the beauty of, but in this case anyway, the more than just like the silver lining, but like a truly valid thing that came out of it was countless families being strengthened. I had people in town that like, I don't know a lot of people here in town because we're 2 years in and that's still really new. But I had people commenting to me like in private messaging saying things like, yeah, I didn't know it was so fun to spend time with my family. I had forgotten how good it was until I lost my job. And so like to have that perspective of like, okay, well there's some really good, and that's why I liked Krasinski came out with some good news. I don't know if you ever watched any of those.
That was fantastic.
That was almost the most perfect thing that you could see come out of it was just somebody saying like, well, here's some good news. Like really good things are happening, even though really bad things are happening. So yeah, that's what I found with us as well. Definitely struggles, but in the end, also really good things.
What's a good point too? There's not even silver lining. Like silver lining is like everything's awful, but maybe something's okay.
Like,
And this is like, no, there were a lot of goods that came out. I'm glad you said that because I think sometimes it takes someone we have to qualify our speech all of the time, which makes sense because you want to be understood. I mean, the whole reason to speak is to be understood and to communicate truth. And so you have to qualify what you're saying so that someone doesn't misunderstand you. Right. But there's some sense of like being able to say, my experience was I got to connect with my family more than I ever would have. I got to connect with students in a deeper way because there were fewer of them. And that's actually a good, not just a silver lining good. Sure. When people say, well, yeah, but what about the people who like, that's also true. There's also a lot of pain. That doesn't eradicate or negate the fact that there had been a lot of families reconnecting and there have been a lot of like people who I hope were able to slow down and take the time to watch Tiger King. And I think we can't forget that.
We can't.
If we forget that, we've lost a piece of our humanity.
Well, I always joke with Jason about that, because I always say, like, well, hon, every cloud has a crap lining, right? Amen. Because sometimes we can get that way. Like we have to just remember, like, actually the majority of it, of most life is actually really, really good. It's not, and that's like a bit misleading to say there's a silver lining to things. Like, actually, no, like there might be a crap lining to things, but if you're honest, most things are so stinking good that the stuff that came through in COVID just accentuated what was already there. Like the family you already had was already so flippin' amazing. It's just you had a chance to see it because stuff was stripped away. And yeah, so I think there's a bit of that as well that needs to be focused on. But
I'm sure you guys have had to stop, but I really think that God is doing very, very large things, not just on a macro scale, but on an individual level for each one of us, every single one of us going through this right now. And the thought that I have come back to many times is, how attached are we to the expectation of normalcy? So I expect that, Father Mike, you had the great example. So your nephew, the expectation of normalcy is, I'm going to have my senior year of basketball. I'm going to get to, finish it out or move it on. Or I have an expectation of that my job is going to be there tomorrow, or an expectation that my parents are going to be as healthy tomorrow as they are today. And I feel like we're just, for myself, I'm so attached to that expectation of normalcy, and nothing has been normal. And it's really flipped all that upside down. And to think, well, how many people don't get to live with that expectation? I feel like I've lived in just like this bubble my whole life and have never experienced weird stuff. I've never lived through war or whatever.
That's one of the things that first struck me more than anything, Kevin, is and I don't mean to, but exactly, there's that sense of like, we just expect that that what is will continue to always be.
Absolutely.
And it's what we might call like the illusion of security, or the illusion of certainty.
Nice.
And like, but wait, why? That we know it's not. We just have the illusion that, how things are how they are meant to be, how they're supposed to be, how they always will be. And you realize, I mean, someone that we all might know, JBP, Jordan B. Peterson.
Oh my gosh, I can't even.
We'll be able to point out and say the fact that you turn on the switch and the light comes on. That's a miracle. Like let's stop for a second and appreciate the fact that, like, what went into that happening, and what to keep it going. Like, a tree falls down, a branch falls down, and we don't have power. Kevin, how long did you not have power? Was it last summer or 2 summers? How
oh my gosh, that was summer of 2016.
Man,
and it was 4 days.
2 weeks? 10? Okay.
We had 4 days, but my wife was 9 months pregnant.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was 4 days of no power, no refrigeration, no nothing.
Well, and it's so funny you would say that. So the Vince Flynn novel, the latest one to come out, is called Total Power, and the entire premise is the actual fact, and he has a thing in the beginning saying, like, the facts are that if a specific 9 substations in America were hit and could stay down, the entirety of the United States of America would be without power for over a year. And then,
really?
But he was like, this is stuff that's come before the Senate because this is actually real. These are real weaknesses. And so the novel plays out. He says he obscured some stuff, obviously, so not to encourage people to do it. But
right.
But the fact that, like, that part was true, and that if that were to happen, so we have about 350 million people, and about 300 million people would die because there would be. Wow. And he lays it out. And so, like, I've even been thinking about that, like nothing, there is not a thing in the temporal realm that is certain, like, not at all. But you were saying, like, the only thing I would say is, like, you were saying, like, we know it isn't, but but I don't think people know sometimes that, no, it's not, nothing is certain. Like, we don't all know. I think most people live like as if there's this concrete it's always going to be something. And I think this, maybe that's one other good thing is kind of force us to be like, nuh-uh.
Well,
no, it won't.
Do you guys think that is like part of our like eternal destiny? Like, you know how you kind of feel like you're never going to die, or you feel like things are always going to be there? Is it part of the fact that we're made to be eternal and
yeah,
we aren't going to end,
live forever, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder, but also I wonder if it's part of the fall, right? I'm going to turn
right.
this.
So it's both, maybe.
You guys.
Oh, that's pretty good right there.
I don't want to ruin your shot.
That's good. You look good. You're lit up.
Thanks. I wonder if it's part of the fall too, because the inability to measure reality, or the inability to appreciate the actual worth of a thing, I think is one of the results of the fall. And when it comes to our time or our lives, or like the fact that I flicked on the switch and the lights came on, and me not going, wow, did you guys see that? I turned that switch. I wonder if that's part of our brokenness.
Yeah, like we maybe misestimate the worth of things. Like almost like a kid walking into an antique shop and being like, that's awesome. And you'd be like, that's not worth anything, because it actually doesn't have the value you think it does. And that's probably a result of the fall as well. It's like we misestimate the time, the worth of the time that we spend, or the worth of our possessions, or the worth of the commitments that we have and whatnot. There's probably a mix of that, but also probably it's underlaid by somehow we still know there's an eternity, right? But then we place all the emphasis on the things that are temporal, so that it's a weird dynamic. Probably.
That's a good point. All the things that we value are. I mean, it keeps coming up in the Eucharistic prayer, where it's help us to use things of this passing world so as to hold on to things that truly will last, or things that are eternal. And it's one of those prayers that happens happens quite often. Like if you listen to the prayers for the week of Mass, prayers for like the conclusion of Mass on any given week, almost always say, help us to value things right, so that, or use the things of this world in a right way, so we can actually enjoy the eternal things.
It must have been incredible to convert to Christianity in, the first 50 years and join into that community. I mean, I don't think we can even really imagine what it was like to live in that community and sharing everything, and just the vibrant joy that Scripture tells us everybody has, and has everything in common. And I wonder what that was like, for just your, mother, father, and kids, or the priests, like what it was like to just be around that every single day, all day long.
Yeah, because we just had that reading, right, Father, about they all lived in one accord, and they all, like, everything, they sold their possessions and gave the things to the poor. We just had that. But like, that was instinctive. Like, that was like their natural offshoot, but that is not what we go for. Like that.
Well, even I'm just thinking of even the radical transformation of life. Like if you were a Greco-Roman pagan, and was living with so much actual uncertainty, and like pain, suffering, and death are the default for your life, that you are not you're not more than a zero, because like, no, this is your lot in life. You don't rise up. People don't make anything of themselves. People are just like, this is where you're born. This is what you're going to do. The best you can do is try to take from the person next to you, use this person over here, and like just scratch out a piece of life. And then the good news of, there's a God, he knows you. There's a God, he's good. He knows you. He actually cares about you. And then the news, he died for you and rose from the dead so that you could be with him, like just like he wants you. I mean, think about like what kind of radical transformation would that be? So going through your entire life with the idea that like, my life doesn't matter to, wait a second, I matter to God? That's
when people died around you all the time, like your family, your friends, they just died and you had no idea why. People were dying, and it was completely meaningless before that. Right. And up to the point, and the life that he's offering, it's like, I get to leave this crappy life for absolute perfection. I mean, that's
Well,
the promise.
you see that in like even in the like the old like I'll Fly Away. You know, like there's a whole
Oh yeah,
genre of like
Yeah.
the songs and hymns that came out of, that's not necessarily, that's more of a Protestant thing, but the songs that came out of certain eras they were about the hereafter, or the I'll fly someday, I'm going to leave this and I'm going to fly away. When we lived in China, I had a Chinese guy look me in the eye and just say, if I die, there's 1.6 billion more of me.
Mm-hmm.
And he just meant it. He was like, yeah, he was trying to convince me that he didn't matter.
Right.
And so, yeah, you do, like, there's that lack of understanding that has permeated from like communist countries, but kind of has permeated through everything we know too. There's a certain aspect of like, no, it doesn't matter. Like that, like you, especially as a person, you don't matter. But then we did find like the again, like that's the crap lining. And then the actual reality of it is, when we were there, like it didn't take much more than smiling consistently. And people would ask you like, hey, why? What's going on with you? For real. Like our group of teachers, we just taught English. We taught in an international school. We did nothing. Like we were out in the street with tracts and crosses. Like we were just there as Christians living. And one day, one of my friends got in a cab, and he was in the city, but he wanted to go home. And he said, he started to tell him his address, and the Chinese cab driver said, "Oh, we know where you are. You're the smiling people." What?
Really?
He goes, yeah, you're the ones who are always happy for some reason. And they had never like witnessed or like spread the gospel, but like there was a reality to them that was nowhere else. Even when I first landed in China, I had asked like, okay, so what's the Chinese equivalent of like in Minnesota when you're walking down the street and you see somebody, like you just say,
what do you
hey,
say?
how you doing? Like even if it's just like how you doing as you pass, what do you say? And they were like, I don't understand what you mean. I said, well, like, like if I'm on a street and you're on a street, we see each other, what do we say? And they're like, oh, nothing, ever. You don't acknowledge each other because there'd be no reason. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a dark place. But it wasn't, because in like a cheesy sense, then it wasn't really hard to spread any gospel, because as soon as you were anything different and light oriented, people flocked to it. So yeah.
Wow.
I wonder, excuse me.
COVID.
Okay. Yep. That they the joy. You guys have heard it. Joy is the gigantic secret of the Christian by G.K. Chesterton.
I haven't heard that. That's cool.
And I've said it so many times, Nick. I thought you would have.
Well, I don't listen. If you're
sorry, I haven't heard you say that either.
If you're talking, then I'm over reading my notes. Like that's all it is.
Okay. Well, G.K. Chesterton once said, "Joy is the gigantic secret of the Christian," and you think like, well, no. I mean, in Christendom, it's kind of like, well, no. There's so much pleasure. There's so many opportunities that doesn't stick out. Someone who consistently has a joy is on the surface indistinguishable from someone who's just having a good time. And yet in a place where it's like, no, even kind of pleasure is private, or whatever the thing is, I don't know, then someone who has like joy is willing to like smile because they're like, no, I matter. No, that my life has meaning to it. God knows my name. Would be radical. They would be the gigantic secret of the Christian. Why are you smiling?
But I would even say like all politics aside, wherever we are right now as a country, like as Americans, watch any debate, watch any news update, watch anything. There's no joy anywhere. Like that, it's still. I think here it's just as much so in a certain sense.
Yeah, good point.
Like there's just I had posted this morning from Ephesians 4.
You did.
Just get Paul just saying, get rid of all malice, like all anger, all bitterness. Just get it. And it hit me really hard. I was sitting there going like, that's all we do though. Like right now, especially in this unprecedented times, like that's all we do is we're angry and bitter and malicious. And like that's not us. That's not our MO. That's not the flag we wave, but
No.
I don't know. Kevin, are you frozen?
No, I'm just.
Okay.
I'm just
sorry.
Pondering.
This is good stuff.
Pensive.
Yeah. Pensive. What time do you have to get up in the morning, Father?
Did you? I have to be out the door by 7:30.
Oh, so it's a bit of an easier morning for you.
Yeah, not too bad. That's why we can do this now. Have you ever noticed, someone once told me this, they said, I saw you walking in, this was years ago. So I saw you walking in an airport and I saw the big thing and they said, I know that must be a priest because priest shirts have this big gap. Have you ever noticed that?
I've never noticed that.
There's no second button, kind of a thing. I just noticed it when I put my arm up.
All it would take is for somebody to realize that and fix it at the factory.
Roll them at the factory.
At the black priest shirt factory.
Yeah. Hey, did I tell you I met a guy from the Secret Service?
What? That sounds way awesome.
So
is it as awesome as it sounds?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was.
I got an email.
I got a guy. I got a guy.
That's Dan Bongino.
I got a guy, and I had him whacked.
Different guy. That is Dan Bongino. Nice.
That's Dan Bongino.
Mutual friend emailed me and said, "Hey, my friend is coming. Who's a Secret Service is coming to Duluth when Trump comes. He wants to meet you. Would you be able to meet?" And I was like, it's nice, but I just so busy this week. And then he emailed me on a Sunday and said, "Hey, I'm in town." And well, in that case, come to the cathedral. We have mass tonight with our students. And so he showed up, and so we met afterwards in the sacristy. Super cool. We're talking. He got into the Secret Service. I was like, "Were you in the military?" He's like, "No." In the army or the police? He's like, "No." Yes, perfect. That was good. He said no. He said he was a collegiate athlete, I think majoring in like accounting or something, and at a wedding reception, and someone said, you have what qualities we're looking for. And he said, but I don't know how to do all these other things. And he said, no, we'll teach you that. We're looking for athletic men who are smart like you and have good moral character. And so he's been in the Secret Service for 16 years. So, quite three presidents. And he gave me, speaking of the shirts, he gave me,
get out of here,
these cufflinks, the Secret Service cufflinks.
Just gave them to you.
And I was like,
what did you do?
He's like, no, he's like, and if you want to, you can regift them or something. I'm like, I will not regift these.
Regift?
No. Yeah, not.
Hey, by the way, here, Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
But it was so cool. But I only have like one shirt that you can use cufflinks on, and I never wear it. I actually might have given it away. So I have to find a shirt where I can wear cufflinks.
So I just want to say in advance, thank you for the cufflinks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome, Nick. Isn't that just cool?
Man.
Yeah. So
that's special, man.
Presidential Protective Division, PPD.
That's neat. So he was over 3 presidents.
Yeah.
Well,
4.
That's awesome.
Well, Brock was.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Brock was dope. So, yep.
Oh yeah.
Wow. So, did he? I mean, I imagine in the short time you guys had, you just chatted about random stuff. But did he have anything in particular he wanted to talk to you about? And if you can't share it, that's fine. But
tell us what his confession was.
Yeah, did he go?
No, he just wanted to share. He just wanted to talk. That's all.
Yeah.
And so I had all the questions like, what about this? Actually, in retrospect, I wish I would have asked more questions like, what's the day in the life look like?
Yeah.
Yes. Like, what did you do today?
Exactly.
We have a mutual friend. I think all 3 of us have a mutual friend whose husband worked for, and I got to spend an afternoon with that person once, and I don't know if he talked. I mean, I don't know if I talked at all, except like, show me more, tell me more, because I got to see. They called it the layer. I got to see all the, and I think I'd probably be the same as you, just be like, okay, I have a million questions because of all the novels that I've read and movies I've seen.
I didn't ask any. Like I was the worst interviewer. I would have been. I just was like, so how's this? And but like when it came to detail stuff, I was more like, so, because he travels a lot with the presidential detail, and especially during election season with Trump being on campaign, He's like, I'm just away from my family a lot, and it's really hard on my wife and our kids. And I'm like, oh, so we talked about that kind of stuff, like just like the heart type. But I wanted, I mean, that was, how in conversations you're like, this is what's most important.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, I thought I should have asked him. I'm like,
what about just the ear thing?
Could you? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
what are they saying in there?
Touch it? Like, can you you have?
How fast can you kill someone?
Yeah.
Like,
do you always have to talk to your wrist or? That's awesome.
I didn't get to ask any of those fun questions. I only got to talk about like the
the things that mattered. They're not fun.
Only the important stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, now you're making me feel bad because I should probably get in touch with that guy and be like, hey, how are you?
How's your heart?
Because
I met Nick. Nick just used me.
Well, dude, he was showing me watches with cameras and like coffee mugs that would record everything around. Like I was in like, because I'm obsessed with Jason. I was in Jason Bourne heaven. Like I probably, looking back, he was probably recording the whole thing.
So that stuff is real.
Like a little boy. Oh my gosh, it's so real. It's so fun. But the thing is, I think at the same time, like it was different than what Father Mike had. Like
sure,
we all know him, and
yeah,
I had plenty of conversations with that human being about other things, but he had invited me to the lair to see these things. I think he was really liking it.
That was the whole point. Because
at one point he was like, this is a car that can, turn on video in 360 degrees and record everything and drive around. It was just awesome.
Oh my gosh.
It's good of you though, Father, that you just kind of talk to him about that. And that's true. The things that really matter.
That was a Holy Spirit moment. You didn't fangirl all over him.
It was a neat time. And we got to talk for like half an hour. Oh, also he was like the kindest, really thoughtful. He emailed, I think the next day saying, hey, thanks for the conversation. And then that was the same week. Trump was in Duluth on Wednesday, California on Thursday. And that's when he was diagnosed with COVID.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this guy emailed me saying, sure you heard the news. I've been testing negative, just in case, to set your heart at rest, to set your mind at rest. I was like, that's really kind, because
that's cool.
I'm sure he's talked to a lot of people in the last week, and that fact that he reached out and told me, hey, don't worry about it. I'm clean. I'm clean. Which is just
clean.
Thoughtful, I don't want to be a super spreader, and he didn't want to be a spreader.
Well, and that's the thing. I think a small tidbit would be like all three of us then having talked about it, we could pray for that. I mean, anonymously pray for that guy and his family. Because even having traveled for a while there, I was doing 10 to 15 speaking engagements a month, and I was away. I had my kids with me a lot, but I was still away all the time, and it takes its toll. I can't imagine being what he's in, like the secrecy and I don't know, it's a different thing than I had. I was home every night by midnight. So we can pray for him as well. And anybody listening can pray for the unnamed secret. Oh, I guess any Secret Service agent is going through this.
All of them are going to be going through that, especially this time. Well, who knows when. What is this saying, by the way?
I mean, I think about it romantically,
Tomorrow.
but that's a huge sacrifice of that life.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be hard to try to pair that with a family. To try to pair anything with a family would be really hard. Even growing up,
celibate.
Yeah, right. Thanks for reaffirming that to people. But even growing up Protestant, like my father-in-law, he had a wife and two kids, and we always, in the youth group I went to, seeing how much of an actual like true stressor it is for even a pastor to have to like, okay, who's more important here? Are my kids and my wife more important here, or is this parishioner more important? So that's a tough thing. That's one of the beauties, I think, of celibacy, is just saying like, no, you're married to the church, you get to be there. There were times I called Father Mike in the middle of the night where he was able to be there. No, nobody, you're not allowed to do that anymore. But like,
I have to get up in the early.
Yeah, because you call him at 4:15, he's wide awake.
I'll be awake, wide awake.
But you shouldn't be. So I unless Christian or Kevin, do you have anything next?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. So what I would say is, because it's 10 on the dot. Father, I used to go to bed because you have multiple meetings tomorrow with people. I think I prepped you ahead of time. We always have the guest make a toast, It can be a funny toast. It can be a serious toast. Bill Donahue did a very, like, he had written it out.
It was like a prayer, man.
Really?
It was. And then I think at one point, Kevin, you toasted to the border. Wait, was it federal agents? What was it? Marshals. The Marshals.
U.S. Marshals. Yeah.
U.S. Marshals. So, Ed, you got something? Fowler? You ready?
I know. I was looking at your text that you said that we have to have a toast.
You can toast to anything. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be have weight at all. It just we close it out with the toast, and you're the guest, so you have to. Other than Sister Anna Marie, she just wouldn't.
Yeah, don't turtle like she did.
No, she wouldn't even drink liquids. She didn't even have a water bottle. I mocked her.
She just went all ascetic on us.
Yeah, it was like dumb. She's like, I'm so thirsty.
Acidic.
Oh, sorry,
acidic.
Acetic. That's not a word.
No, it's like
she went acidic on us. It was like acidy all over. Just burned us.
To my friend Nick and to my friend Kevin, to their YouTube channel, to their friendship with each other, with me, to their families, and to everyone who's watching, I am Prost.
Cheers.
Prost.
Cheers.